I think I certainly found myself in my business for a long period of time feeling like it was a job, and to be honest, didn't really believe that it was sellable, my business, until it kind of happened.
Today on the podcast, we have Andrew Heathcote. He owned a production company in the UK and he exited and he moved to El Salvador to change the way his life is and start something new. You know, we don't always want to keep doing that one thing that we started. We want to try something new, especially as a creative person. You want to try the next level in the game. We talked about, like, you beat this level and now you try the next one. Or maybe something is not going the way you wanted it to in your production company or the field that you're in, and you just want to change your trajectory. So we talked about marketing, niching down, storytelling, and how you can change the game for your production company. So I hope you like the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Andrew. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think one of the things that drew me into having you on is just your exit from your production company. I think that's just like, it's an amazing thing to see somebody else build something like that that's in the same space we're in and then exit. And it's also like, why did you exit? Like, why? Like, were you in a space where you're like, you know what, this is great, I had a great time, I'm ready to do something different? Or what was the reasoning for it?
It was pretty much that. So I was running the company for like 9 years. Well, there were a few factors, but that was a big one. So I knew in the last year of maybe running my production company that maybe my passion wasn't quite where it was previously. You know, like many business owners, we're on fire for our business. It's like your whole life. And I just kind of felt like I was itching for something new. And it was kind of something that I ignored maybe for 18 months previous, but just couldn't really ignore anymore. So by this point, I'm 9 years in. I said to you guys, I live in El Salvador now. My business was in the UK. We'd actually moved over to El Salvador and I was running my production company from the other side of the world for like a year before I sold the business. So I knew that wasn't perfect. Like, we made it work. We moved over here for family reasons and it worked. And that was a really cool experience. But I kind of knew that it wasn't going to last, that situation, forever. I had this itching for something new, a new challenge. I've always seen myself kind of moving on to other ventures just to experience that as much as anything else, just for the creativity of it. And so it just felt like it was the right time.
Are the new experiences, because you're now helping other people who own studios make an exit for them. So I know, because obviously Sean owns a production company, so he's, very excited to kind of learn and hear about this. I can only imagine, but you're kind of in the same space as the production company. You're just helping other people now. Is there something else that you're trying to do as well, or is that just what you do now?
Yeah, so the coaching and mentoring stuff was kind of like a no-brainer for me. It's like, sold the company, had a few weeks. I'd love to say I spent a few weeks on the beach. I didn't. I've got a 2-year-old son, and so it didn't quite live up to what my expectation was, right? It was underwhelming, I would say, changing nappies rather than sitting on the beach, sipping pina coladas. But yeah, it just felt like the obvious next step for me. And so I wasn't even sure if I wanted to do it, honestly. I sold the business, had a bit of time off, and was like, okay, let me try this out and see if I love it. I do love it. I've really enjoyed dipping into other production companies, and I've found it to be a real privilege that people give you, that business owners give you that access, that opportunity to join them on a portion of their journey and have a small impact. So I've really enjoyed that. But for me, it's part of my ambition now. It's not kind of the whole thing. So am I looking at other ventures? Yes. Do I have something up and running? No, not yet. The coaching stuff has taken up more of my attention than I thought it possibly would. And I am now at the stage of kind of testing ideas. So I don't have anything concrete to give to you guys now, but I'm really enjoying that work, that kind of exploration of what comes next.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because do you miss it? Like, I feel like, I'm not saying Elena's on this, who's our producer, she's listening. Elena, I'm not exiting my company, but I am very interested in this. Like, do you miss it? Like, I feel like I would miss the production aspect and creating, but maybe you're in a space where I am currently, where it was like, you're operating more than anything. Like, I don't shoot as much as I wish I was. I used to shoot all the time. And now I'm more of like an operator and make sure the business moves, make sure everything gets paid, make sure everybody's doing the job that they're supposed to. And so you become this operator versus like an operator of a camera. You're like an operator of a business. Do you miss the production company aspect, or do you not miss it because it was too much operator?
I think what I enjoyed or came to enjoy after years of running the business was that kind of progression, personal progression, but also kind of my role. So I started out like, I guess all of us do, where you kind of pick up a camera and you start shooting some stuff. And that was my love and my passion. And then, you know, I'd shot, I don't know how many talking head videos, corporate videos, and was like, I kind of like the idea of somebody else giving this a go now, and me being a bit more strategic and me doing the running of the business. And I just came to really love that side of things. So actually being the operator of the business is something that I really enjoy. I find it very challenging and very interesting. And so that wasn't really that was something that I'd kind of enjoyed. I guess I don't miss making videos for other people's companies. I was probably a little bit over that by the end, to be honest. What I've always loved is diving in and using that skill set to create our own marketing videos. I just find that more compelling. I find it more motivating, more interesting. And so that's a skill set that I carry forward into what I do now, into what I'm doing next. So whether it's creating content for my coaching and mentoring, and whether it's creating a set of ads, which I'm currently doing to test out a new venture, I can still use that skill set and I can still be really creative. That's the thing I love about business. It is inherently creative. Okay, there might be, these sort of quite practical skills that you need, but the core of it is, how can I build something which is different, which stands out, which people connect with? And I think that's a really creative pursuit. So, I still feel very much creatively fulfilled. Luckily, I'm glad I haven't found the opposite.
Yeah, I think Dan and I were talking about this the other day. It's almost like playing a game. Like when you're running a business, you're trying to beat the levels, and then you want to play a new game in business, but like still be creative and try and play those levels. And so I think you're finding new ventures because often like after you do something over and over and over again, you're like, okay, I need to change it up, especially as a creative. Like you can't do the same thing forever. As much as like I love this space, you have to, like, that's why we do this podcast. It's like I have to create a little bit somewhere else because that's who I am. I have to keep creating and I have to find different avenues. So I feel like that's kind of how you are a little bit too.
Yeah, I think it's kind of curiosity and I'm not unlike lots of, I think, agency owners, not just video owners, but agency owners in general, who kind of see themselves as like, one day I'm going to have a product to sell. And I think, I've spoken with lots of agency owners, particularly in the UK, and I think we're all kind of the same, tend to be quite creative people. We kind of like that idea of that next something. And I think that was always it for me. Video started out as my passion, and then business became my passion, I think. And like you said, seeing it as a game. I think when I'm in a great place and when everything's flowing perfectly and working really well, that's how you see business. I think business becomes stressful when you start to see it as something which is too serious. Of course, there are very serious implications sometimes, but to see it as a game, I think is a great place to be, isn't it? And then everything becomes fun.
Yeah, it's hard to... I mean, there's places where you're serious in any business, but I think you have to have fun doing what you are doing for a living because we spend so much time working. Like you have a family, I have a family, Dan has a family, and you want to spend time with your family, and then you want to spend time at work so you can support your family, and you spend a lot of time doing your job. And so if you don't like your job, you should change it. And I think there's a lot of people that don't because they're like, well, just stick it out. And I think you did the right thing. Like you moved to the next thing because one, because of family, and two, because you saw like you needed a change and like you weren't going to just hold on to this one thing forever. And so I think, do you feel happier now that you've made like a change?
Yeah, I feel extremely happy. Yeah, I think I'm living a period of my life which is very, very exciting. There's a real balance between the stability that I have learned over the years that I need as an individual. Like, I'm not kind of an all-out entrepreneur who will just risk absolutely everything with zero foundation. I need a level of stability, but there's also some uncertainty there, which is exciting. And yeah, it's a very fun place to be. Ultimately, I think my big thing is, like, I don't want to look back with any regrets. And I don't know whether it's normal or not, but I spend quite a lot of time thinking about that. And so, faced with the opportunity to either move on to something that I'm curious about or stay in kind of with the safe option, I find it more appealing, I guess, to move on to the next thing. So yeah, no regrets on my side. I'm very excited about where I am. Yeah.
So how did you get into like coaching and mentoring? Like, obviously you made your exit, so you were kind of like, you were kind of at the top of your game. You sold your company. Did you have friends like hit you up and be like, how did you do that? I want to learn how to do that. Or you were like, my next step is, let me show these other companies how to do what I did.
So there was definitely a lot of interest in the idea of selling a video production company. So I did receive messages, but that didn't really turn into coaching and mentoring generally. It was more just kind of intrigue, like, well, how does this happen with this type of company? Because it's maybe not kind of the common story. My whole approach to business has become just to kind of float ideas, run little experiments, figure out things that are potentially connecting and worth investing more energy in. And that's generally what I do. That's what I'm doing now, is I kind of figure out new ventures. And so my first step was like, I don't even know if I want to do coaching, mentoring, but I'm just going to kind of float a few posts out on LinkedIn and just see what the take up is. That generated the first few clients, and it was like, okay, well, feels like there's a bit of demand here. There's guys who want a bit of assistance, and so, okay, now I'll take the next step. So it just came about like that. It was fairly organically, probably like yourselves, and connected with quite a few guys in the industry, and so it just came about quite naturally, really. And then I had to figure out how I was going to coach someone, because it's quite different, guiding somebody or helping somebody on their journey, right, rather than kind of coaching myself through the journey, right? So that was an interesting experience as well.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a next step though, but I get what you're saying. Like, it's a completely different set of skills, because you're like, you don't know anything about this person's business except for maybe they're in the similar area that you were in, but like they may operate differently or they have different types of clients, and it's not the same. Not every business can exit the same way. I think it's interesting to see that you can apply that though and help people, guide them to that space. And I love to hear that that's a possibility. I mean, as a business owner, because you can't do this forever necessarily. I mean, if you want to spend more time with your family or doing other things, like, you have to separate that time, because as a business owner, you operate all day, all night, and like, you're doing things that you don't want to do for a long period of time because you have to keep that floating. And so do you think that most people build businesses to eventually exit, or do you think that, like nowadays, or do you think that a lot of people are building it to hold on to it for the life of the business?
It's a good question. I'm not sure I fully know the answer, but I suspect that most of us start out with, grand intentions of what we can achieve. And I think for most, it becomes a job that we are probably never intentional enough to kind of break out of that. It's quite a difficult cycle, I think, to break out of, because ultimately it is our income and we've got families to feed, and there's a very real side to business, isn't there? So I think it's really difficult to take a step back and to kind of, I don't think most people really know what the end goal is, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I don't think we do know the answer. I think if we all knew the future and the answer, we would just jump to that, So it is uncertain.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, I don't know if I fully know how to answer the question, but I think I certainly found myself in my business for a long period of time feeling like it was a job. And to be honest, didn't really believe that it was sellable, my business, until it kind of happened. I think there are situations in your life periods of time which are almost windows of opportunity to reflect and think about what you really want. And they're just those rare glimpses that we get to allow ourselves to assess the situation honestly and decide what is the next step for us. I think apart from that, because business is so busy, particularly a busy video production company. You've got things flying at you. You've got project deadlines. You've got your pipeline. You've got your own creative projects. Like, there's so much going on. When do you step back to decide, like, what path am I on here? And am I going to sell? Am I going for the exit, or am I not? Am I building this to be a lifestyle business, or is this a passion business? It's really difficult to step back and ask yourself those questions. So I think we're all somewhat like victims of that. And I think if you can step back and think more intentionally about it, then that's a great thing to do. But I'm not saying a video production company is the most sellable business out there. I feel very fortunate to have sold my business, because if you look at the attributes of a video production business, it's not made for a big exit.
Right. No, and I agree. It's definitely like, you should build like a SaaS company. If you're looking for a big exit, I think it's like software, anything like that. But
I feel like it's becoming more popular, though. More people are starting to acquire production companies because I feel like they can have their own in-house media or whatever it might be to build their own content.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if, right. But I wonder if it's like, did somebody reach out to you to buy the company, or were you like, I'm going to start looking for people that are interested? You don't have to go into too many details who bought it, but like, how did that whole process work?
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing is that there's like this, as soon as you tell somebody you've sold a business, they're like, wow, I sold a business. That's incredible. There are different ways of selling a business, right? In my case, I sold the business to our team. Our team acquired the business and have carried on with the business. So it's effectively like a management buyout, right? But I think, like Dan, your point about, companies wanting to be, acquiring a video production company so they can take that in-house. I think it's just about being intentional about what are the realistic opportunities for being acquired, and then building those relationships. And I think, again, we don't do that because we're so in the business to kind of step back and do that long-term piece of work. But really, it's just about, okay, are there larger agencies that might want to acquire us? Have we got any, really big clients who might want to take this in-house? Or even, have I got senior, very capable team members that might be interested in inquiring this as an opportunity? Those are pretty much your three choices, right? So I think it's just about being intentional. Your question of like, did somebody reach out to me? Around the same time, we did have a larger agency who were kind of sniffing around, and I knew kind of what they were after. However, I decided, once I've made my decision that I think it's time for me to move on, I decided to float the idea with our team, which was a risk. But
it's nice of you, though, I think.
How so?
I think to look at and maybe this is not the reason, but I think you look at the team who was helping build with you, and you're not exiting with a big agency that you're like, I don't know what they're going to do to the business. And so you were like, and that's how I look at it from the outside. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but you're like, this team has helped me build this. They're doing a great job. And this agency, yes, they would do a great job, but what are they going to do? Are all these people going to still be here? Are they going to get rid of people? Like, that's hard as a person to take that on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a very uncertain, quite stressful side to selling a business. And I think, having gotten to know guys who have sold many businesses, now they will tell you that it's always a difficult process, no matter, who's going to buy the business. But it's a really nice thought to know that the team who were so invested in my business was one of the things that I'm most proud about, that I could actually emigrate to the other side of the world with a team in the UK who would go and deliver our projects is an achievement, I think. I feel really proud of that. And the fact that they've kind of taken the business on, have had enough passion for it to kind of, ensure that the business lives on past me is a really cool thought. So, the other thing for me was when, thinking about those two options, is it a larger agency or is it the team? The team options for me was much more attractive because I'm quite black and white about the way that I kind of go about things. I always have been. If I'm in, I'm in. If I'm out, then I'm out. And I really didn't like the idea of selling to somebody and then having this long drawn out buyout over like 2 years, whereby I've kind of got to pretend that I still want to do this thing.
Right.
Because they want you to stay on usually.
Yeah. And that's, buyout is tied to results, and that can be very stressful. In fact, I know a guy who ran a business local to me who sold for a large amount of money, not a video production company, another type of company, and he ended up having a heart attack like 6 months after, because the whole thing was just so incredibly stressful. For me, it was, I've got the opportunity to use this as a platform to move on to the next thing, which I believe is the right thing for me, and I believe I can build to the next level. I feel blessed to have that opportunity. Even if I walk away with less than I would with a a larger buyout, and having to stay in the business, like, for me, it's much more attractive to go like, okay, cool, let's move on. You guys go smash it, and I'll go do the same, right?
Okay, yeah. So when you're like mentoring or coaching another production company, what are some of the things that you go in? Do you go in and see their numbers and see their clients and see all of that stuff? Or like, what do you help them with to get them to the level of they want to exit?
So I don't actually help. I haven't yet helped a company to exit.
Okay.
It generally isn't the kind of appetite that I find that the guys have who are running their companies. Most video production companies, at least in the UK, are pretty small companies, and they want to be more successful. They want to free themselves up from some of the day-to-day, or they want to be more strategic. There's usually challenges around sales and marketing and lead generation, which is causing significant amounts of stress. And so those are the things that generally we look at. So my work tends to be, it kind of falls into one or two categories. We either kind of work on the positioning of the business and ensure that it's right, and we look at niching, and we look at their message and how much that resonates with their target audience. Or it's kind of a pure kind of like mentoring relationship, whereby you've got sole owners in a small video production company who's really difficult to see the wood through the trees because there's so much flying at them, and it's carving out that headspace and using my like 9 years of experience to be able to kind of dig and find out what the real problems are and helping them to take the next step. So I think my clients and the community that I'm kind of looking to build, they're interested in the idea of selling. Yep. But for most, like, they still love making films, and they don't really see themselves anywhere else. They probably don't know what else they would do. And so it's about optimizing their business now rather than, okay, I want to sell. Andrew, can you tell me how I do that? Yeah.
I have a specific question that leads into a different section. So I have a topic. There is somebody that is hiring an editor. They're looking for a new editor. So if you were looking for new editors, freelance or full-time, say 100 people apply. They all send resumes and reels. Great. You also ask, hey, I would love for you to edit this 30-second clip to see how well you edit. Do you think that is wrong to ask people for free to edit a 30-second clip? Or do you think that's useful because you can see who cares about actually doing the job?
I don't think really we have much choice than to ask them to do some kind of practical activity, because the truth is, like, we've all seen it. Somebody sends a show reel and they were like a runner on that job, and they're kind of presenting it as though they were like the cinematographer, exactly. DP, right? Yeah. And it's just, I've seen it so many times. In fact, I had a client just like a couple of months ago, and I kind of said to those guys, they basically came to me and said, like, we've got this guy, he's great, his show was amazing, we want to take him on, what do you think? And I was like, great, get him in and do a practical test. That's generally what I do, and I don't kind of apologize for it, I guess, because I do think it shows people who are invested and whether they're going to put the effort into that opportunity. Personally, they did that test and it was an absolute train wreck, and it just didn't work out, and they came back to me thanking me to say, like, hey, we're just so grateful that we didn't take this guy on, because we'd have like sunk thousands of pounds into that situation and trying to remove ourselves from it. So that's the process that I tend to have. In fact, I had this once. So when I was running my video production company, we had a similar situation. We invited the guy in and we spoke to the local, like a local coffee shop who we felt would never really be able to afford our services. We checked with the guy, are you happy to come and do this practical test? We're going to spend a few hours just filming a little reel, and you're going to come back to the office and you're going to put it together. Everyone's happy. The coffee shop gets this little reel with the permission of the guy who's coming in, and we kind of set the whole thing up. He came in and was, understandably quite flustered. and wasn't kind of on his game, I would say, that day. I was playing the role of, because I wanted to see how this guy operates, I was playing the role of, you know, the person in the coffee shop sipping his latte. And so the guy's like moving around. He's not really saying much. I'm thinking, you know, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you need to be kind of directing the talent here, right? Not that I'm the talent,
Right.
I'm just drinking a coffee. I'm sitting there and I'm like the business owner, so I feel like quite, you know, I feel confident. I feel like I'm in a position of authority. I'm like, you know, not, I wouldn't say enjoying the experience, but I've got that like slight cockiness that a business owner maybe has, probably shouldn't. All of a sudden, this guy who was quite big, had, you know, quite big muscles, spent a lot of time in the gym, comes up behind me and literally lifts me out of the, off of the sofa and moves me to the other side of the sofa and just puts me down. And like, I've never felt so insignificant, so small, so weak, so abused.
Right.
And then had to like sit in his review and say like, hey dude, you just can't put your hands on the person you're filming. Like you just, it's like such a big no. I'm really sorry. Like I appreciate you coming over, but I can't give you the job. So like, and what I'm trying to say is I think it's so important to get in the same space as somebody, to see how they work, not just to rely on the samples that they send you, which is a flawed process in itself, but, you know, a huge part of, you know, whether a supplier likes using us is how we show up when we go to their location and we film. It's not just the final product we send through. And so you need to understand how people are, how they're going to be with clients and all the rest. And that's kind of become my process, I guess. Ideally, would you pay them? Yeah, you probably would. You'd probably compensate them for that time. Is that always possible for small video production companies? Probably not. So it's not perfect, but at least it's a process that you could follow.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. If they're in person and they're like on set, I think it's like you gotta pay a little bit. I think for an editing thing, if it was like a quick 30-second reel, I think if they're going for a position, they're going to get the position. I get not everybody's going to get it, but it shows, like you said, it shows that they care. And the only reason I bring this up is because I had like a little conversation on LinkedIn with somebody recently about this, and they said that me having somebody work for free was toxic. And I was like, all right, I think there's a different way to look about this, and I don't think I'm not trying to get free editing.
Right.
It's
I think they
basically
missed
a
the point.
tryout.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tryout. It's not necessarily something where you're like, hey, I need this reel edited for free because I'm going to post it. It's like, hey, how do you work? Because like you said, you don't know how people work.
Yeah. Think about this. Contests companies do it all the time with contests. You know, even video contests, they'll have, you know, oh, if somebody, whatever video wins this 30-second thing, they win, you know, the prize, but you have hundreds of entries, you know, no, they're not getting paid for it. It's kind of the same thing.
Right. And people don't think about it that way. They're like, they don't think that they're doing it for free. They think they're going to win. So it's like, you're going to win the prizes of the job.
Right.
And I think that's a pretty big prize. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm just terrified that you're going to use my clip on that LinkedIn thread.
I know.
And I'm going to be
I'm not going to do it.
I'm
I
going to
won't
be
do
pulled
it.
into this thing.
No, I wouldn't do that because I don't know if you know the person either. I'm sure you could find it through my LinkedIn, but I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't want to pull you into it. Also, this person seems like they would start posting their own video content against it, so I don't want to start a thing. I just wanted to, and I don't think he listens to this at all, but even if he does, it's like, we're just civilly talking about this. I don't think it's anything wrong with the process at all. So I'm not going to use your clip, I promise.
I agree with what you guys are saying.
And look what Andrew said. Andrew said this, he backs me.
I agree with what you're saying. I think like, if you think about probably where, I don't know how you guys started out. I started out working in TV and you certainly had to do a little bit of that. You had to go and do the internship, you know, volunteer for a few weeks. And I don't see anything wrong with it. Is there a line? Of course there's a line. Do some companies in the TV and film world abuse that? I'm sure they do. But yeah, I think it can be used in the right way.
Yeah, I think also like with the age it is now, like me and Sean again, we're just talking about this yesterday, but back in the day, you know, we would do some free work to, you know, move forward in whatever we're doing. Nowadays, kids are almost like they why do I have to do this free work? Why do I have to do this?
They
I
feel
should
entitled.
already. They feel entitled already, right? And it's like, yeah, I just feel like that's because we're in 2024 now, and that's like kind of what happens. I don't know.
But you were probably excited too to be on set. Like I know that when I started, I did an internship, and I was lucky enough to do an internship at Converse, and I was like, I'll work for free. They usually pay their interns. They didn't have a film and photography internship. And I was like, let's just do this, and I'll do it for free. I know you don't have that position, but let's just do it. And yeah, I mean, I was working a second summer job, and it was fun to be on set. I was just excited to see how things work. And I think that's probably what it was for you for TV. It's like you wanted to see how everything worked before you jumped in.
Well, and you're still with that company years later. If you had not done that, you probably wouldn't be in the same position you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have them as a client.
Right.
And I think that's why people look at it from the outside and they're like, oh man, like how'd you get that? I'm like, it took years. I mean, that was in 2009. That's a long time ago that I did an internship for free.
Yeah. For companies to, I mean, I think it's with everything. It's every single business out there. They're focused on other things, except, a lot of them should be focused on themselves, trying to get themselves out there. And I think a lot of people fail at that. But even with a production company, it's like, this is what we do. We make ads, we make videos, we do this thing, but we're not doing it for ourselves to make ourselves, reach more people.
I think it's huge if you can find the right structure to allow you to realistically implement this stuff, because it is really difficult, isn't it? Like like you say, we're making the content for the clients. That always comes first, and then to sort of step back and do it for yourself is really hard. There's no two ways about it. At the same time, when we think about it, I think it is our one unfair advantage that we possess, that if we utilize to our full, abilities, can be huge for a video production company. Our clients pay us a lot of money to go and create content for them, and we have this ability in-house. And so when you put it like that, you think, maybe I'm missing a trick here. So my experience of this is we did produce some promos for our company a number of times. I guess you would describe them as being like Dollar Shave Club style, which I know is like a well-trodden path for video production companies, but outside of that space, still feels pretty innovative to, a corporate client. So we made a number of promos in that style. One of them in particular, which actually was more of like we basically wrote a music track and we had it produced, and then we filmed the music video.
That's awesome.
That one, for whatever reason, just like really, really connected. And probably, I think it's fair to say, I can't measure all of this activity, but it certainly made us in the value of a couple of 100,000, that one video, over a period of time. And it was well worth doing. It probably cost us, if I factor in staff time, it maybe cost us 5 or 6K to make. Yeah. We hired a cheap studio. We kept the idea kind of pretty simple. We had a music producer work on it, which made the track like horribly catchy, and it worked really well. So I think it can work really well, but I think it's really important to think about the distribution as well, because I think it's very easy to pour all that time and energy into a project like that, not really do a lot with it, and then go, I won't bother doing that again.
Yeah, it doesn't work the same for everybody, but it's an interesting approach though to take like music video style, because it's also shareable. Like people want to, whether they watch it just for them or they're like, oh, this is fun, and they start passing it around. Like you want to make content that is shareable, because that's the best ads. Like you want people to watch it and like it and share with their friends, because that's how you're going to get the most marketing dollars out of your content.
I'm going to put a note in here, catchy jingle for Juke Booth.
Yeah. You going to write me a song, Dan?
I got you.
I actually put on a pink shell suit for that recording, so don't forget the pink shell suit, Dan. That was vital to the success.
That was vital.
All right, so I'm going to buy a pink shell suit. Dan's going to make a track, and we have a studio, so we don't have to hire one. We have one. We have a light grid. So yeah, look for our pink shell music video coming soon. So you got started in TV. What was the reasoning for that? Were you like, did you go to school for film and TV and you're like, this is the next route? Were you wanting to get into actual TV production? Why did you go that route?
I ended up in TV because I didn't study media. I didn't study film. I was studying international development at university, and I really loved the subject matter. International development is like developing world issues. So you look at, the political environment, economics, natural resources in these countries, and how can you improve those countries. So I found it really interesting, that program, but I knew that I didn't want to go into, the development field, working for NGOs or government agencies or so on. And so at that time I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do with this? How am I going to progress? And I became really interested in documentaries because there are lots of really interesting documentaries about that subject matter. And my whole thing was like, right, I'm going to take what I've learned and I'm going to go make documentaries about the developing world. And I was hugely excited about
They'll
it.
hit so much harder too.
Well, if I'd ever made one, yeah, it might.
Right.
So my next step was, right, okay, I'm gonna try and get into this world. And I volunteered on like a documentary festival in the UK, and I got like 500 emails of people who are in the like documentary and TV world from around the world, but probably mainly in the UK. And so my next step was like, right, I'm just going to blast this email list and I'm just going to find my way into this industry, which worked. But I ended up working on like trashy daytime programs about like people who've been ripped off by a builder, or I don't know, like those daytime property shows that nobody wants to watch, but they still somehow get made. So I did that for a while, and I kind of discovered that I didn't love the TV industry. I felt like I was working on short-term contracts. There was always somebody to replace you, and therefore I felt out of control. Like I couldn't, if I wanted to book in a holiday in a month's time, I couldn't really do it in case a contract came up, and that was my opportunity, and I had to take it. So I just didn't really see that being a great way to live. And I saw my brother at the time, my older brother, was running a business, and he was doing pretty well, and so I kind of decided that I was going to transition. I was going to kind of do it for myself, I guess. That's kind of how it happened.
And did you ever get to make any sort of documentaries? Like, not maybe in that space, but did you ever do any sort of doc work?
Yeah, so I was a junior team member on a documentary here in the UK, and at that, the lesson for me in that is that actually I didn't really enjoy that process. I think a lot of that was because I was a junior team member, and so I was just the guy, I was basically the runner waiting around, carrying kit, and I was like, this isn't really for me. I think I have a lot of respect for people who have trodden that path where they've gone, right, I'm just going to make well, we say in the UK, make the teas. I don't think you say that in the US, right? I'm going to make the teas for 2 years. And then they're going to step up and they're going to be a guy who's organising the kit room. And then they step up and they become the assistant DP or whatever it is. I don't even know the career path anymore. But, that for me is a difficult thing to do, because it takes so much discipline just to kind of suspend your own creativity for that period of time and be willing to play the long game. I couldn't do that. I forgot what the question was, to be honest, but...
It was just if you ever did you make any doc type stuff at your production company either? Or like, did you do any sort of doc work at all? Even if it was like short form?
Yeah, no, we was kind of corporate B2B, so we didn't really touch like the sort of documentary side of things.
Do you still want to? Is that still something that you're like, I gotta
try
this?
I don't know. I guess I've kind of optimized my life now for the way that I live on a day-to-day basis, which is down here in El Salvador, which is trips to the beach on the weekends, which is being around to see my kid. And when I think about making a documentary, I think I'm going to have to like be away for a while. It's going to take a lot of sacrifice in that sense. And I think creatively, potentially appeals. There's like a creative side that might appeal. But right now, I don't see myself taking that step because I've kind of got it too good, I would say. Not in an arrogant way, but I'm just enjoying life down here, I guess. I think when I had my documentary experience previously... Well, yeah, it's not a bad thing, is it? It's not. Yeah, it's not a bad thing at all. When I had my documentary experience previously, I felt like, gosh, you have to have some grit and some determination and some real passion to kind of go and make a doc. It depends on the subject matter, I think. But certainly, I suppose the sorts of documentaries that I was making, and I suppose my honest reflection at the time was like, I don't really think I have that. If I were to make a documentary now, even if the subject matter were pretty tough, I think I would have it in me, because I think business teaches you that. Like you have to be willing to, to bang down, to knock on doors, to, drive through brick walls. Really, you have to have that. Don't you? So I think I've learned that over the years. I think I could do it, but maybe it's a tiny thing. Maybe I never do it because I'm having too much fun. I don't know.
Yeah, it's also like you said, you got to give up a lot to make those films because some of it's uncertain. You're like, all right, we're going to do this thing. It might take 2 days or it might take 3 weeks to get this piece that we need. And you just do more than you expected because that's the whole point. It's a journalism thing. You're like searching for the story throughout, and maybe the story kind of takes a different turn and you have to start putting in more time in one section. So I've always wanted to do something like that. But I do think of it similar to you now. Like I have a 2-year-old son, so I'm like, do I want to travel the world to do this doc, or do I want to do a local doc? Like I don't want to be away too long, but I want to create still. So you do have that balance. Like before I had my son, like I was traveling the world and I was doing productions everywhere and it was awesome. But now when I'm like away for a little bit, it's like it kind of sucks. And it's selfish, but it does kind of suck at times because you're missing out on stuff that's happening in your life that is important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I very much think that way. I don't like being away from home. I think I probably got to that point as well. Maybe part of my decision to, I reached that point where I had more of an appetite to do the kind of more of the business work, more of the strategic work. Part of that was I didn't really love being away from home anymore. That wasn't because I had a kid, because at that time I didn't. But now certainly I think it's a real. I feel very privileged to be around when my son is here. Okay, I'm working. I work in my kind of little office here, but I can pop out and I can see my son. And I think that to me is what I value at this point in my life. When he's 18 and he goes off to college or whatever, I might have a bit of a midlife thing, and I don't know. I feel like I want to tackle some big issue and do something of real meaning, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I've heard that from other people where it's like you raise kids and you're like around and they're around for 18 years and then they just like peace out and you're like, all right. I just like, because Dan has older kids too. And it's like, what do you do? Like once they turn 18, okay, cool. They're out of the house, but like, maybe it's not cool. You're like, I spent all this time making all these things happen for them. And then they're like, see ya. Like,
Dude,
damn.
I have 4 more years until my daughter's 18, which is pretty crazy to say. But
it is.
Yeah, time goes by fast. So enjoy it.
Real fast.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's part of the process. It actually has helped me learn to create more and differently. I think it's actually made me be a little bit more patient with some of the things that we create and how we create, which has been awesome. I mean, I'm not like the most patient person, but I think it's helped. I don't know if that's something that you've learned with having children, that you've learned a different process of how you do business. Your time is worth a lot more. I think you're like, all right, I gotta get this done in like 2 hours.
I think that's been more for me. I've never thought about like the impact on me creatively, but I think it's a really interesting perspective. For me, it's been, I think, business to me was everything. In my 20s, I'm now 34, and my early 30s was everything. And I would spend all of my time thinking about it, and I'd work weekends and I'd work evenings, and that's what I wanted to do. And I think having a kid who, let's say, is now 2, has been it's been a learning process for me of kind of how to be okay with not doing that, to not feel guilty for taking time to spend with my son and with my wife, and to really value that time and to be there. And I think that at first wasn't particularly easy, and now I think is a big reason for why I feel so content in my life. And probably for the first time ever, I feel like I'm operating from a place of, you talk about operating from a place of flow or just contentment, where I don't work as many hours as I used to, but the work I do is so much more playful and is so much more fulfilling to me. And I think the outcome of that is that you are more productive, you are more effective, and it's more fulfilling. So I think that's been my learning, really. It's been a process, definitely.
Yeah, it's good to hear, because I feel the same way with the like playful and like understanding new things and maybe like relearning because you're watching them learn as well. Do you think that you have become, like, do you still film at all? Like, do you still create content at all, or do you kind of take a break from that right now?
So funnily enough, I think recently, I'd say the last 2 or 3 months, I've really rediscovered my enjoyment, my love of filming content. I've been making content for kind of my coaching and mentoring stuff, and I'm in the process of kind of sorting my kind of studio here, and I've been looking at kit, and I've been sourcing stuff, and it's just been this like really enjoyable project that has kind of taught me that I do really enjoy this stuff, but I probably just got a bit burnt out with how I was kind of putting that into action, I guess. So I really enjoy it, and I think content is such a huge part of any business. You know, the Gary V's of this world would tell us that you're sort of a media company first, right? And then you're whatever you do after that second. And I do think there's truth in that. And so no matter, I've always kind of thought, you know, okay, I exited my business, but whatever I do next, the success of those ventures will be in large part because of what I've learned as a video production company owner and my ability to be able to script and dream up and imagine really great ideas that can catch people's attention, like the music video idea, right? You can just put that into a different context, and say if I were to create that video for a different brand, I would love that project, right? Because it is those ones where there's a bit of creativity, it's a bit of something different that I really enjoy. So absolutely, it's a huge part of like who I am as a business person, and kind of what I see going forwards, definitely.
I think you're totally right with like keeping content moving and how you can apply it to different spaces. And I find myself like trying to apply it to other, like helping other people with whatever business they're running, where I'm like, well, maybe you got to just change up your messaging. And like you learn a lot creating content. And I think you learn a lot about storytelling, which is so big now. Like people want experiences and stories. They don't want like, here's a product, buy this now, this will make your life better. They want to know like Yeti is the perfect example. I always use them. You look, they sell a cooler. They built this massive media business off of a cooler. And it's because they told the story of the people that should own these coolers, and everybody just wants to be a part of that ethos, that brand ethos that they've created. And it's so cool to see that content has changed kind of the game of marketing. And I think it's amazing to see all these businesses doing that. Do you think that this storytelling of content is something that will continue and be more of, I guess, a driver of marketing and business versus just like your product hitting you over the head?
Yeah, I think it has to, doesn't it? I think with the noise and the sort of overload of information that we all have, authentic, real stories, and whether that taps into humor or whether that taps into some kind of other emotion, I think, you know, that's what we're all craving, isn't it? I think there's a lack of connection, so we want to connect. And I think that's the same for brands as it is for, you know, ourselves sitting here wanting to have a really great conversation. So I think it has to. The brand that sprung to mind when you were talking about Yeti was Liquid Death. It sort of moves us more into like a branding, I suppose, realm.
Good.
But I've listened to the podcast on how I built this, with the founder talking about that, and I just think, gosh, that is just incredible, isn't it? You can kind of build this entity or maybe a story, a brand around something so simple, and that can catch people's imagination. Like that to me is, it gives us a lot to reflect on.
It makes me want to try, like, not that I have the ability to do it, but like I see Liquid Death and they walked into a space that everybody was like, no chance. There's way too many people here. Like you're in a crowded room, and they did something that makes me interested in like taking like, I don't know, like toilet paper roll and being like the coolest toilet paper, you know, like taking something so boring and just being like, can I do this? Can I change this whole business because I tell the story of this in a different way?
But that also goes to show that it literally is story. It's marketing. It's how you present whatever company you are. You could sell, you know, anything. It's just how you do it.
Which is a liberating thing, isn't it? I think. Yeah, I think it's like that for me, particularly with the situation, you know, with the stage that I'm at. That's really liberating, because I think all of us probably fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I need something new. I need to innovate in terms of the product or the service. And I think there is real value in that. But also, you can just stick water in a can with a cool name, and all of a sudden you've got a product which is worth like however much, right? So, gosh, business is a strange game, but also a fun one to play, right?
Yeah. It's fun though to see that, because you're right. You don't need to reinvent or make any sort of new. Everybody's like, oh, we got to innovate, make the next newest thing. It's like, take something boring. That's like my new thing, is like trying to find, I want to find like something boring, and I want to change the way that. And so I've been looking for businesses like that. If you're listening and you have a boring product, let's go. Let's tell your story. Let's change the way that you market your product. Because I think that's the space I want to get into. Like,
Yeah.
we work with some cool brands, and it's awesome. It is so awesome to film with somebody like Converse, Nike, Reebok, but it's cooler maybe to start with somebody that has none of that, and be like, let's shape the way that you tell your story, and let's create your branding. And it's hard for a business to let you do that, but I'm looking for somebody that's willing to do that. And I think that would be a fun, like, part of the game of business and content, is like, let's take this boring thing and let's like reshape it.
Well, especially if it goes good too, you get that dopamine hit of it's working. You know what, we're being creative, we're being able to play around, and it's working. So, you know, when you do those big shoots at Converse or Nike or whatever, it's like, yeah, this was cool, I made it, and then it just goes off and does its own thing, and you don't know, you know, what happened to it.
Have you not seen some of their marketing?
I've never seen it.
It's
No.
so good.
It's just
Dude, they
sparkling
just did
water.
one with Ozzy Osbourne. So Ozzy Osbourne, they just did an ad. He like pulls up in an Escalade, and these two kids are pouring. They now make like a powder that you can add to your regular water, which is incredible. And so it makes it taste like liquid death. And he's like, oh, what are you guys doing? Don't snort that shit. And like, he like basically makes it seem like they're like on the side of the street. And it's just like, yeah, it's just like a weird way to do marketing. But they did that. They did, I actually saw on LinkedIn recently this guy who was a UPS driver. He posted, it was a really good way to post a story about his experience with liquid death. And he was just like, I got a free can today from like a client or whatever, and like talks about it. And Liquid Death responded. Wow. And they were like, hey, we're going to send you some more. Like, thanks for the, and it was just like a regular guy who's a UPS driver who like writes content on LinkedIn. And so they're trying to approach marketing differently. It's cool.
Yeah. Dude, I had a sick idea of, remember when vitamin water came out?
Yeah.
Have like vitamin ice cubes. Like, you know what I mean? Like ice cubes, but they're vitamin. It's like vitamin inside it. So like either you could serve it at a bar or serve it at a restaurant, or so I don't know. I don't know who buys ice cubes, but it'd be kind of cool.
Well, there's a guy in Portsmouth. Actually, my brother
makes ice.
grew up with. Yeah, my brother.
Yeah. So I know him.
Yeah, so he built a company that's just straight up ice.
Yeah.
And
he's killing it too.
It's like spring water.
Yeah.
So it's nicer, and it actually is like nicer looking ice. Like it looks like it's clear. I mean, you go to like some of these nice bars and they like cut their own ice from like a
well,
big
that's
cube.
how you get the clear stuff. It's I forget, because like especially when you put the ice balls in like the whiskey and stuff, they like that's where you get like the nice clear. I forget what happens. You have to do something in the freezer, or it's a certain type of water.
I think it's like a type of like natural spring water, because like you use like tap water. Like that's what I use like to make ice cubes or whatever. I have like the ice cube thing in my fridge, and it's just like they look like snow. Like they're just like they're not clear at all. But I think it would be interesting to like look into some of that, because I think it's the type of water, and then maybe it's the process of how it's frozen.
Yeah, you can make it in your garage.
Premium.
Yeah.
Just make it in your garage. Is that what
you can? No, you can. You can make it in like in a freezer or something, but there's a certain way to do
like
it.
A big cube.
Yeah, big cube, and then you chisel it. We were trying to make these big ice cubes for the office for the whiskey, so we were trying to figure that out. But
you should do it, because for some reason, and I don't know why, but like when I get a drink and it has like that nice ice cube in it, you feel like the drink is better. Yeah. Even if it's not. It's just like the feeling of like, I don't know why it feels like luxurious to have a clear ice cube, but it just feels that way.
No, we have this cool machine where like, because we freeze regular big square ice blocks, and then we have this like, it's not even a machine, it's just like a cube with like a ball, circle in it, half a circle in it. So when you go down, you put the ice cube in, you put the thing on the top, the cylinder on the top, and it's just like, I don't know what it is, but the weight and the material of it melts the ice, and it within like 30 seconds, it just keeps dropping, and it makes a circular ice ball that you just put in a drink. It's amazing. I don't know how it does
Do you think
it.
do you think that's part of it, is melting it? Do you think like melting the
Well, this is just coming from like the
ice
square,
down?
so they're not like, it's not crystal clear like usual, but
I know, but I wonder if that does it too. Like if you get the water boiled down to like if it gets to a certain temperature and then you freeze it versus like just straight up freezing water.
Right. Yeah, there's a way. Yeah, there's definitely a way.
I'm gonna go deep dive in this.
Dude, let's start. We need to get a boring. That got me so excited.
What? Ice cubes?
No, but finding a boring company and like turning it around.
Dude, that's been my thing lately.
Yeah,
it's wild to see simple products.
Dude, looking at
really
this liquid death thing,
stuff.
I'm like, because you've never seen water in a can. Like, who's had water? They put it in cart.
Dude,
who's
Spindrift?
put water in a can?
Dude, there's tons of companies.
Maybe I'm just a loser and I don't know any of this stuff.
No, there's too many companies. That's what I was saying. There's too many companies that do it. Like, think of a seltzer water in a can. Like Polar is a company that does
I guess, yeah. But like regular water.
Well,
like, this is
it's sparkling. Water. It's sparkling.
Oh, all of their liquid death is sparkling?
Yeah, and it uses agave, so a different way to sweeten it. So it only has like 5 grams of sugar. I believe it's just from the agave. You should try one, because I don't know if it's just the branding or like when I'm drinking one, it's like, it feels like a better experience. Like I could see people drinking them at bars.
Yeah,
and
looks
people
cool.
could drink them. It looks like a beer.
Yeah, right. I'm looking at these cans right now. It looks like a beer. Yeah.
I think that's why people drink them now more, is because it's like also a feeling of like, oh, that's cool, you're drinking a liquid death, versus like, oh, cool, you have a Spindrift. No offense, Spindrift. I'm not Spindrift. Let's turn you around.
Exactly.
Let's turn that frown upside down. Let's make you a better brand.
Let's spin you to a better brand.
That's our new tagline. Make your brand better with water.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to talk to you more about this.
Well, let's start looking for boring companies, because that's my new thing. I love working with the brands that we work with and the cool companies, but everybody wants to work with the coolest companies in the world, like the skate companies,
especially if you could get equity into the company and turn it around.
Right.
Like that would be awesome.
Yeah, if you found a company that had no internal department at all, no real like marketing, and you're like, okay, it's like Poland Spring. Like they're never going to do it. And you probably shouldn't touch the water space at all, because liquid death is just like, I think they went from like nothing to like $3 or $4 billion company.
I thought it was done after vitamin water. It's like, what can you do with water after vitamin water? And then now here we go, liquid death.
But I'm pretty sure the founder worked at another water company or another beverage company, and he left and he did this, and they were like, you're insane for doing this. There's no chance you're going to pull it off.
That. Yeah.
I know. That's why it's even better.
Yeah.
I would love to have somebody like him on. I think his name's Mike. I don't know. Cool. Mike, if you ever listen to this, we'd love to have you on from Liquid Death. Forget your last name. It starts with a C, I think. Cesario or something. You should come on and talk to us. Look at our quality. It's pretty good. Yeah. We were talking about, have you ever heard of this company, Figs? So they make scrubs, so for like dentists, doctors, nurses, and they're a company that we just noticed they've changed the whole like marketing game in scrubs. So like scrubs have been around forever, and their storytelling pieces are so good, worth watching, because they basically take some boring product and they tell these stories about like F1 doctor, like Formula One doctors, this lady who's like a veterinarian in the wild, in Africa, and like she's like helping rhinos, and she's like in helicopters, and they shoot like crazy content for something so simple.
That sounds so cool. That sounds so cool. Dan, I know that you're particularly excited by this boring like business idea. But yeah, it's a really cool thought, isn't it? It's a really cool thought. I was going to say to you guys before I lost connection, like in the last year of running my company, this was a big part of our strategy. So we decided that we were going to go after and we were going to market to boring B2Bs. So like we were marketing to like engineering firms, like manufacturing, like companies who are making like metal sheets for like random bits of products. And we were going to do something in their industry that had never been done. So we were going to create something which had some humor to it, which was just a little bit out there, which was kind of really eye-catching. And we made that part of our strategy, and it was a lot of fun. We did a number of those videos in our last year, and then we would market those to kind of generate leads and sales, which was really cool. So it's a similar thought.
Yeah, like how do you sell a company on that is a boring company? Because if I was selling, iron rods, it's like you're probably selling to another business. So why do I need a funny commercial or funny, you know what I mean? Like, how would that work?
Yeah, so it was all about just sort of trying to find their point of uniqueness and kind of iterate that. And then it goes back to what we were talking about story, about like these are guys that we want to work with, these are guys that we connect with. This is a company with people that I want to work with, which did work really well. I think their whole challenge was like, how do we market something so boring? Because we can only market based on relationships. So our whole thing was like, well, let's do something to help you open the door and get you that foot in, and then you guys can do the rest. And that was kind of how it works. But in terms of us marketing to the boring company, that was interesting because there's an opportunity when you do something which is really different, but also being the first, even though, if there are millions of companies creating, out there creative video content in those industries, it wasn't being done. So they were the first, and it was quite a difficult decision for them to make. So for us, it was about finding those business owners who had a need personally for significance. It was really interesting. So we were using that music video that I mentioned to you to market this. And that would open the door for us. And the people who would almost self-select themselves were the guys who would come on, they've got a ponytail, or they've come on and they've got like crazy tattoos or something. Do you know what I mean? And they're like, they have this need inherently for significance, and that's why they want to do something different. It's interesting. So that was, it was.
Yeah, they're in a boring space, but they have the need to like push some sort of limits to change the game a little bit.
Yeah. So that was
I have a question
related.
Me and Sean were talking about this the other day, but have you ever done work for a company for equity instead of them paying you? Like maybe you think their business is going to go somewhere?
No, I haven't.
No.
Okay. Do you think that's a dangerous thing to try and do?
I suppose as I reflect, the only thing that I remember being said many times was like, hey, we're a young company, we don't have much budget, but there's lots more coming. And you're like, after like a couple of times, you're like,
I've gotten that so many times.
All right, okay.
You're like, we'll get you next time. And you're like, will you though?
Yeah. So I think probably that experience probably pushed me in the other direction and kind of maybe just think, I'm not doing that. Like, we're just going to charge good rates and we're going to get paid well. So I think you could do incredibly well, couldn't you? But
but how many times do you have to do it?
Yeah,
exactly. How many times do you have to do it until like, so do you do like 10 of them and only one works out? Or like, it's definitely, it's an edgy thing to do, but I think if you picked like the Uber or somebody to create content for, like, but it could work. I mean, we were talking about it, and it's an interesting space to be in production, because you're giving your time for hopefully that company to grow or do some sort of exit, and you get some sort of profit share off that.
I feel like if you were going to do it, it would have to be your whole thing. So like, you're in a position where you don't need that short-term cash, and you can speculate a bit. Like you said, Sean, like you can do, you can work with 10, 20 different companies, and you can bank on the fact that two of them are going to take off, and you're going to have this incredible equity. So I feel like that would have to be your business model, and you're almost going in as like growth consultants, of which video was one part. and you're utilizing that ability to be able to tell incredible stories, which is something we've already talked about, to kick a business onto the next level. I think it would have to be that, because without that, I don't know, how do you focus on growing a business when you're taking those kind of, you're just kind of speculating in a very it's not for me. Yeah.
I've done it before, actually, Dan, and it was.
No, I know. Yeah.
Did I tell you about the?
Yeah.
So Andrew, I used to. So this person reached out to me on LinkedIn, like, I don't know, 8 years ago, and they were like, "We got this camera we're building. It's the GoPro competitor, and we really like what you're doing. We'd love for you to be like the lead for all video content." I'm like, okay, this sounds cool. So I did some meetings. We talked about it. They sent me some of the cameras. They were definitely like cheaper versions, but they were building better ones. And so I'm like, okay, this is a cool opportunity to get on the ground level. Now, we just need some content to start off, and we'll basically just give you equity in the company. And so like, it wasn't a full-time gig, and I could do it while I was doing my other work. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this thing. I'm just going to take a chance. So I took a chance at this thing. I started building them content. I did everything from like mountain biking content to like motorcycle rides, and basically just did things that were fun for me and like captured them. They then sent me to CES in Las Vegas, and they had a booth, and I was the one that was like talking to people at the booth and like showing content. And the quality was definitely not at GoPro yet, but it was more affordable, and they felt that they could sell more of them. So they showed me valuation. They were like, this is what we're going to do when we exit. And it all seemed so good. And I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing it. So they like paid for my travel and all of that. They had me do some other shoots. And then all of a sudden they approached me with like the next product, and it was like a Bluetooth speaker. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's happening here? And they're like, let's do this. We're going to take on the Bluetooth speaker world. And it was like, and so I did a little bit of that, and then I was like, I need to exit. And so like, I didn't get anything out of that except for like a couple trips to California and Vegas, and it was fun. But
I will say this, not only it's good because you took a risk, but at the other end, you learned a lot from doing that, which then you can bring on to the next client that's doing something like that. I think you got a good experience from that.
I was able to do it too, because I was in a position where it was like, there was not a lot of back end costs. Like I had equipment, but I didn't have a studio. I didn't have like a team. It was just me. And so it's kind of just like flying around doing this thing, and it worked okay, but like there's no like basically free work for a year.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't, so I'm hoping like if we were to go into that space, that's kind of like what you could hit, like is like a space where like nobody ends up paying you, and I think it's harder to do now than it was, for me at least.
Sounds like you really believed in the product as well, at the time, and so you took a punt. So like, I think that's different to like, I think that's different. It sits close to what we do, what I did do, and you speculated. And look, there are going to be projects that don't work out, aren't they? That's entrepreneurship. That's business. So it is what it is.
Yeah, you can't hit home runs all the time. I mean, you learn that throughout. Like when you're running your production company, I'm sure there were like times where like this is going to be so big, and then it didn't turn out to be that thing that you hoped for.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that happened a lot. In fact, like, I think when I first started out, it was like, oh, amazing. I'll be, we had this lead, and I've got a verbal yes. I've got this verbal agreement they're going to go ahead. Like 3 or 4 years in, I'm like, literally a verbal yes means absolutely nothing to me, because unless I've got like money in the bank, I don't even want to invest any emotional energy in this whatsoever. Maybe that was a bit too cynical, but it happens, doesn't it?
I agree. Yeah. You have to get people to sign stuff. I mean, I used to just like do the verbal agreement thing, and now it's like everybody has to sign contracts. They have to sign some sort of estimate, because you want some accountability. Because if you're just like, all right, we're going to do this thing. Yeah, in 2 weeks, we're going to do this thing. And then like they just ghost you.
That's what's tough is, your word, nowadays means nothing. It's like you have to you have to have things signed. And that's what I've learned, because I think I'm too nice, and I'll always take, their
Way
verbal
nice.
whatever. And I'm just like, oh yeah, sure. Like I'm down, like whatever. And then it comes around and they kind of bite you in the ass. And if you didn't have it signed on paper, it's like, you're screwed,
Yeah. I think contracts are a big thing in any sort of business now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like just asking for the sale as well. I don't know how it is in the States, because I've not done much business in the States, but in the UK there's this kind of culture that we're like want to be super polite all the time, and in terms of sales you have to be kind of like very softly. But you know, people in the UK have got a bit of a reputation as well, I think, of kind of being a little bit flaky. So like ghosting is like really common. It's becoming really common, I'd say. And so, particularly with my coaching and mentoring stuff, like I get people signed up on the direct debit on the call, like, okay, cool, let's set it up, let's do it. Because, and I think you just kind of have to be that way. So I'm curious to hear how it is in the States and how people kind of react to that kind of thing. Can you do that? Can you not? What's the reaction?
Yeah. I think we never get people to sign like I love to do like meetings, even if it's virtual. So I like to meet even new clients, like, hey, let's hop on a call. They're like, well, here's all the details of the shoot. I'm like, let's hop on a call. Let's talk about it. You get to know them. You connect more of a personal connection to why you're giving them a certain estimate. And then it's like a little more locked in, but they never sign anything, at least for us, like on the call. They then have to sign it later, and maybe on the call would be better, because it is one of those things like later on, like they take a week and they're like, oh, we've gone a different direction. I'm like, did you really get rid of the project, or is your different direction you went with somebody cheaper?
Yeah, but I mean, think about when we did the Nike thing, and obviously we're still working with them now, but when we did that video call with them the first time, they were just like so thankful. They were like, you guys are awesome. Like, I loved doing this person to person, you know, meeting you guys and seeing how you are. We can't wait to work with you. Like, they were so excited. So, I mean, I think sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but I think that's the way to do it, is doing the phone call or a video call, so you can actually, you know, speak to the person and get to know them a little bit.
Yeah. And I think, Andrew, for a course or like any sort of coaching, it seems like that's a really good opportunity, is like while you're on it, to have them, because I think Dan's experienced that like on some of the courses that he's been a part of, where if they do it on the call live, it's more apt that somebody's going to sign off or like pay for the course than
Absolutely.
like the mentorship. Like they're going to pay for it right then and there, because it's like you're talking to them. And if you give them any sort of buffer time, have you felt that they maybe like ghost you or don't talk to you?
Yeah, it definitely makes an impact. So like, I think if you don't, and I think it's a real balance, because you never want to pressure people, and you don't want people to come onto the call feeling like they're going to be pressured. And I think we've all had that experience. But I think, so if the opportunity kind of presents itself and somebody is really enthusiastic, like the time when you were your call with Nike, for example, but it's a different context, then I think it's just having that in your kind of armory, just to be like, okay, cool, like, you happy to get that set up now. And then just kind of having a very, very simple process to follow. I think if you don't do that, you're asking somebody to make the decision 2 or 3 times, because they're having that sort of back and forth in their own mind about, is this the right investment for me? Am I going to get out of what I need to? Like, you know, we're not great, I think, at making decisions on the whole, just as people. I think you just kind of have to rig it slightly so that when people are enthusiastic, okay, they've taken that action and there's no going back. And that's a great recipe for ensuring that you follow through in productivity anyway, right? Like, you know, we'll say, you know, make sure that you've made this, what's the phrase? Take action at the point of making the decision, or something along those lines, to ensure that you follow through, even if it's blocking something in your diary. So I think it's just to guard against that, but it has to be done in the right way. And I think it's different with video production, because there's normally a good number of stakeholders involved, right? So it's really difficult to say to a marketing exec at Nike, hey, sign this contract. Like, actually, there's like 3 or 4 of us who need to sign off on this, right?
Yeah. What's your like biggest advice to people that come to you to find new clients in the video production space? Like, how do you tell people they should look for new clientele, and how should they get those new gigs?
For me, it's all about positioning. So I think everybody's looking for the silver bullet of like, should we do Facebook ads, or should we do SEO? SEO, I think, is a great one. Like, appearing higher on Google is a no-brainer for me. It did really well for our agency. So that is a silver bullet. But I think generally speaking, like, we're all looking at which channel we should go after. When really, I think it's about our positioning, it's about our messaging, it's about having something that resonates. And so for me, it's about, okay, at the moment, if you're going after a general audience and you're struggling. If you're going after a general audience and your business is thriving, like, knock yourself out, go for it, like, you're doing great. If you're not, then a really powerful device is to niche down and to speak to a specific audience. You can solve bigger problems for that audience. You can build your reputation with that audience much more easily. Thinking of the content and the ways to market to a specific audience is much easier. For example, starting a podcast aimed at mortgage brokers feels like you've got the possibility of gaining traction. I'm not saying mortgage brokers is a good niche to go after, but generally that would be my advice. If there's pain there, like if they're struggling to kind of cut through, because I think, the market's only become more competitive. Barriers to entry have come down. We're seeing or likely to see an impact. There's another debate from AI potentially, and that might allow more companies to take more of their content production in-house. And so it is a challenging landscape for many for many video companies, and I think you just have to kind of optimize. I've used the phrase like read the game in your favor. I think you just have to try and do that, because otherwise you can just hit brick walls, and it just feels very demotivating. And the impact of that is that you don't have that energy to kind of attack a new marketing project, and then that's when you stagnate as a company or move backwards.
Yeah, and do you think it's kind of deterring for new clientele? Like if you go after somebody in a certain niche and you don't have anything in that niche, do you think they're most likely not going to go with you because you're trying to like film for, let's say, like Liquid Death or somebody like that, but all your content is like jewelry on a tabletop in a studio? Like that seems like you've got to create the content that you want to create or work for.
It's definitely you definitely, I wouldn't say in all cases, but it's definitely an advantage to have samples in that space, isn't it? And it gives confidence to your prospects. So yeah, I think you definitely need that, particularly if you're going to then go, right, we're going to work with similar companies, we're going to work with beverage brands similar to Liquid Death, then you need to have some samples. So like if you were looking at niching into that space, there may be, and this goes back to what we're saying about doing work for free or low value, like there may be a little bit of work involved, but it depends on what you've got in your library of content already available to you, and what you've got available to leverage.
Yeah, and do you think if you have a website and you're trying, so somebody who is like has a production company, they're struggling to find new clientele, their website has all different types of mixes on it, it's like, okay, take off some of the stuff that's not relevant and let's go after this one niche, like take away some of the work?
Yeah, my approach to this, so I think we put a barrier in the way of kind of taking this decision to niche or not niche. And that's why I think part of the reason you see these like really explosive debates on LinkedIn about like, oh, you should niche your video agency or you shouldn't, is that we make it this like huge thing and we make it like an ideology. Like I'm niched or I'm not niched. It's like, well, this is just a tactic that we kind of use to kind of help you to get cut through and to move along your journey, right? And so for me, I think it's too big of an action to say, right, I'm now niched into serving beverage brands, I'm going to take everything off my website. I think it's too much too soon, and it's too big of an action, as I say. So better for me is to go back to the one beverage brand that you've talked to and that you've worked for, and to quiz them on how it's gone and what the experience was and how you can serve them more deeply. Maybe to run a little test campaign, sending out some LinkedIn messages or some small action whereby you can kind of see whether there's further demand for this. And just to kind of take smaller steps along that journey and kind of build a message around it, validate whether that's right. And then at that point, you go, right, we're seeing this work for us. We understand the strategy now. We can feel the strategy. We're not just kind of basing it on what Andrew said on one of his LinkedIn videos, right? I understand how this works now, and now I'm going to take the step of niching my whole business if it feels like the right thing to do. Or you don't do that, or you just stay as a general agency, but you use niching as this tactic that can help you to run call it like niched outreach. So like my marketing campaigns are going to be niched, where I can go with a specific message to allow me to prick up the ears of this specific target audience, but my website's still going to be general. Do you lose a bit of power? Maybe, but I don't think that's the end of the world. I think the important thing is being able to open doors, which is the really difficult thing sometimes.
Yeah, it's like niching your campaigns and your outreach makes way more sense instead of just like general outreach of like, hey, we're a video production company. We build beautiful videos. It's like you want to go after that one space, maybe make an ad that's specific to that space or that speaks to them. That makes a lot more sense.
I think it does. It works. It's much more effective. I think it's very, very difficult to open doors with like, hey, we're a video production company. We can make some beautiful videos, because that's true. You know, for your agency, that is absolutely true, right? But there are also a lot of other companies that can do the same thing. And so it's really different. Then you're basing it on relationships. And I think just to arm yourself with having something more than solely the relationship is only going to be a good thing. But I think then it's really important to understand that target audience deeply. And the one thing that I think we all kind of overlook the foundational work when it comes to marketing. We want to build the landing pages. We want to create the promo video, the ad. But actually what I've seen provide so much value time and time again is going and doing those research calls. Like if you're going to go after a specific audience, go and speak to them. And it's so simple, but so few people actually do it. And I've just learned the power of that, and I would never overlook that for my own ventures anymore. I just think that's the starting point of everything, because unless you've got that, unless you can really tap into the pain and the desires and all that stuff, you can't involve it in your marketing collateral, and you're just not going to cut through with the same power, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. And somebody who's starting out in this world right now, like starting in video production, wants to build a production company or wants to start doing freelance, what would your advice to them be? Like, what is their first step? Like, they have all their equipment, they shoot a little bit, they're trying to grow their business. What's the best advice you could give that person that's running a video production company?
I think it depends on their level of skill. So if they still need to build their skill set, just go and shoot. Like, my advice would be just go and shoot stuff, even if it's for free, and it probably is going to be for free or quite low value. Like, just get better. I think that would be the starting point. If they're already at that level, but I think it would probably go back to, I think it would be to not niche straight away, but just to stay open to it. And so, you know, as soon as you've got a client you've done great work for, to then be able to kind of assess whether that might be a good route to go down. So there's some criteria for, like, you know, what might be a good specialism to go into, which is kind of, can you easily reach this audience? Do they have money? Do they have money to spend? Do they have a significant pain that you can kind of help them to overcome? So there's a number of kind of criteria points that they could use to make that decision. But I think the quicker you can make that decision, the more fruitful it's going to be for me. I suppose I started out when I was doing my coaching mentoring kind of with quite a soft stance on this, but it's the one thing that I consistently see which makes a big difference. Like, you can just immediately kind of help you to fare more favorably when it comes to sales and marketing. So I've become quite staunch on it, I guess. Like, yeah, you need to do this. Let's get it done.
Well, I think this has been an awesome conversation, Andrew. We appreciate you coming on and giving us words of wisdom on how to exit and also how to just like run a production company. It's been awesome. Thank you.
I've loved it, guys. Thank you so much for having me on.